Yeast. Let us see an interesting experiment in order to understand the sugar yeast experiment. This is a video attached and made by Miss Susan Polano.
You will need a packet of yeast, a small, clean, clear plastic bottle, 16 ounces or smaller, 1 teaspoon of sugar, warm water, and a small balloon. When you're ready to begin, fill the bottle with about 1 inch of very warm water. Next, add the entire packet of yeast and then swirl the bottle to mix the yeast and the water. Add the sugar and then swirl it around again. After you've blown the balloon up a few times to stretch it out, place the neck of the balloon over the neck of the bottle. Let the balloon sit in a warm place for about 20 minutes and watch what happens. This is my experiment, and fast forward so you can see the effect better. You will need a packet of yeast, a small, clean, clear plastic bottle, 16 ounces or smaller, 1 teaspoon of sugar, warm water, and a small balloon. When you're ready to begin, fill the bottle with about 1 inch of very warm water. Next, add the entire packet of yeast and then swirl the bottle to mix the yeast and the water. Add the sugar and then swirl it around again. After you've blown the balloon up a few times to stretch it out, place the neck of the balloon over the neck of the bottle. Let the balloon sit in a warm place for about 20 minutes and watch what happens. This is my experiment, and fast forward so you can see the effect better.
The gas filled up in the balloon is carbon dioxide gas. This gas fills up in the bottle and then the balloon as more and more gas is created. This gas can be collected and passed into freshly prepared lime water. We find that the lime water becomes milky. Take a drop of the solution from the bottle and place it on the slide. Put a cover slip over it and observe it under the microscope. We observe oval or egg-shaped cells of fungi, and these are called as yeast. So in the experiment we see that the yeast cells are dormant, that is, they are not active when they are kept in dry and cool conditions. But yeast rapidly starts dividing once it is exposed to sugar and water in ideal temperatures. What do the yeast cells do? They change the sugar into glucose by using the water. Once the yeast has converted the sugar to glucose, then fermentation process takes place, during which ethanol and carbon dioxide is produced. This process is called as fermentation. So yeast are eukaryotic single-celled microorganisms. Yeast is a heterotrophic fungus. Yeast always grows in carbon compounds. There are about 1,500 different species of yeast in existence. Yeast cells divide rapidly every 90 minutes under optimal lab conditions, and this process of dividing rapidly or this method of reproduction in yeast is called as budding. Here you can see small round bodies attached to the parent yeast cell. So this is the parent yeast cell, and these are the small swollen bodies which are produced by the method of reproduction in yeast, and this method of reproduction is called as budding. So these are the new daughter cells of yeast which are formed by the process of reproduction. This mode of reproduction is called as asexual mode of reproduction because only one parent is involved in the process of reproduction. And the method of asexual reproduction in yeast is called as budding process. Yeast grows and multiplies very quickly because of the carbon compounds that are available in the sugar solution. So here in this process, yeast converts the glucose that is produced into alcohol and carbon dioxide. This is the structure of yeast cell. The yeast cell has a cell membrane. This is the nucleus. This is the food vacuole where it stores the food granules. This is the contractile vacuole, or you can say the normal vacuole. And this is the fluid part of the cell which is called as the cytoplasm. Let us see the process of bread making. For that, a video is attached from YouTube, and this video is created by Chemistry of Bread Making. So let us watch this video.
About the science behind bread making. We'll go through the bread making process step by step and explain the relevant science behind it. We'll start by going through the ingredients and understanding each of their contributions to the final product. Then I'll tell you about why bread rises. Finally, I'll explain how bread gets its golden brown crust. Like any recipe, when making bread, you must first start by gathering your ingredients. For this recipe, our ingredients are water, oil, sugar, salt, flour, and yeast. Each of these ingredients serves a chemical purpose and helps make bread delicious. The first step in the recipe is to dissolve the dehydrated yeast in water. The yeast acts as a leavening agent. Yeast is actually a fungus that helps make the bread rise. Yeast works by consuming glucose, or other carbohydrates, from the dough mixture and producing ethanol and carbon dioxide. As the yeast produces carbon dioxide, the gas is trapped in the dough mixture, causing the dough to rise over time. This is why proofing, or rising time, is essential in bread making. If you've ever looked really closely at a piece of bread, you've seen the little pockets left behind by the CO2 gas in rising. The yeast you get at the store, at least here in the United States, needs to be dissolved in warm water to activate it. The temperature of the water is very important. If the water is cold, the yeast will not activate, but if the water is too hot, the yeast will be killed. The water also helps the dry ingredients mix together. Next, we add the oil. Oil acts as the fat in this recipe. Other baked goods can use butter or lard instead of oil as the fat. The fat from the oil makes the bread softer and helps prevent the water from escaping during baking. The next ingredient to add is the sugar. The sugar serves a few different purposes, beyond making the bread taste sweet, of course. The sugar acts as fuel for the yeast in its fermentation reaction. When heated, the sugar also goes through processes called Maillard reactions that contribute to the brown crust on bread. The next ingredient to add is the salt. The salt also improves the flavor of the bread. Salt helps shield charged gluten molecules from one another. Without the charges repelling one another, the gluten molecules can get closer together, strengthening and stabilizing the dough. Finally, we add the flour. The flour provides most of the structure of the bread. Additionally, the yeast uses glucose from the flour to fuel its reaction. The water in the mixture activates protein in the flour to form gluten, a mixture of water and soluble proteins that make up the bread. Gluten proteins contain amino acids that favor hydrogen bonding, a process very important to the structure of the bread. Next, we must knead the dough. Kneading the dough is critical to making light, fluffy bread. Kneading stretches and compresses the dough, strengthening it. This is because as the dough is stretched, more hydrogen bonds can form between adjacent gluten proteins. The dough will start out very soft and squishy, and over time will become smooth and more difficult to knead. Once the dough has been sufficiently kneaded, it's time to let the dough rise. We'll leave this dough to rise and come back. After about an hour of rising, the dough has nearly doubled in size. This is due to all the carbon dioxide gas produced by the fermentation reaction. After punching down the dough to release some of the excess CO2, we shape our bread. Today we are making a braided bread. So we use 3 small balls of dough and braid them together to form a loaf. Once we have a full tray of loaves, we're ready to bake. As I mentioned earlier, the sugar in the bread goes through several reactions at high temperatures called Maillard reactions that produce the brown crust. There are many of these reactions, but they are approximated by the reaction on screen, the conversion of a sugar aldehyde to an unsaturated aldehyde with help from the amino acids in bread. After about a half an hour of baking, the bread is finished. Check it out, you can see the little bubbles and pockets left by the CO2 gas and the golden brown crust from the Maillard reactions. Not to mention it tastes pretty good too.
So you have seen the different steps of making fresh bread, right from mixing the ingredients to the process of baking. As soon as the flour, water and yeast are mixed together, the enzyme in the yeast and the flour cause large starch molecules to break down into simple sugars. The yeast produces a liquid that releases ethyl alcohol and carbon dioxide gas. The carbon dioxide gas is released into the air bubbles. When flour and water are mixed together, there are 2 proteins which are present in the flour, which are called as the glutenin and the gliadin. They grab water and form a bubblegum-like structure called as the gluten. In the process of making bread, the baker has to develop as much gluten as possible because it strengthens the dough and holds the gases due to which the bread rises. Fermentation process. You must have seen your mummy making idlis, dosas, doklas. She prepares the batter and leaves it overnight to rise. You must have also seen the foam that is formed in beer. You must have definitely seen the process of conversion of milk into curd. These processes are termed as fermentation. Fermentation is a chemical process where glucose molecules are broken anaerobically, and aerobically means in the absence of oxygen, to produce ethyl alcohol and carbon dioxide. So you can see the reaction. The glucose is converted into ethyl alcohol and carbon dioxide. The process of fermentation was first discovered by a French chemist by the name Louis Pasteur. He described the changes brought about by yeast and other microorganisms growing in the absence of air. He also recognized that ethyl alcohol and carbon dioxide are not the only products of fermentation. That is, during the process of fermentation, as we have shown in the reaction, ethyl alcohol and carbon dioxide are formed, but it is not only ethyl alcohol and carbon dioxide that will be formed. There will be other secondary substances which will be produced during the process of fermentation. So what is fermentation? Fermentation is a chemical process, because we can see that one compound is converted into another compound. That is, one carbon compound is converted into another carbon compound. So if we say glucose is converted into ethyl alcohol and carbon dioxide, glucose is a carbon compound, ethyl alcohol and carbon dioxide, these are also carbon compounds. So fermentation is a chemical process where one carbon compound is converted into another type of carbon compound, and this is done with the help of microorganisms. During the process of fermentation, heat is generated and there is release of carbon dioxide gas. The process of fermentation has various applications. So what are the applications of fermentation process? Fermentation process is used for making yogurt from milk. It is used for producing alcohol from grains and fruits. It is used for making bread from flour. Acetic acid, citric acid, vitamins and antibiotics are produced by the process of fermentation. Production of ethyl alcohol. Ethyl alcohol is also called as ethanol, and this is a formula of ethanol, C2H5OH. It is produced by a biological process, or you can say a chemical process, where sugars like glucose, fructose, sucrose are converted into alcohol, and when alcohol is produced, carbon dioxide is produced as a byproduct. This is a fermentation process which is carried out in anaerobic condition, that is in the absence of oxygen. The yeast which is responsible for converting the sugar into alcohol and carbon dioxide is Saccharomyces cerevisiae. The microorganism used for fermentation depends upon the raw material used. If the raw material contains sugar and starch, then the yeast called as Saccharomyces cerevisiae is used. Now, what are the raw materials that are required for producing ethyl alcohol? Normally, saccharides, that is sugar, like sugarcane molasses, which is obtained during the process of making jaggery. So here you can see during the process of making jaggery, this particular byproduct called as molasses is obtained. So molasses is normally used as a raw material in India for producing ethyl. The other raw materials that can be used besides molasses are maize, wheat, barley, straw, potato, wheat flour, etc. When ethanol or ethyl alcohol is produced as a byproduct, there are other secondary products which are produced. They are the fusel oil and the carbon dioxide gas. The fusel oil that is produced as a secondary byproduct is used for perfume manufacturing. It is also used in the paint industry. The carbon dioxide gas that is formed during the production of ethyl alcohol is purified and is used as dry ice for storing fishes, ice creams, etc. Wine is made by the process of fermentation. The sugars that are present in the grapes, which are the sugars, the glucose and fructose, are fermented by using the yeast called as Saccharomyces cerevisiae. This results in the production of wine, that is alcohol. Now, ethanol has various properties. Ethanol or ethyl alcohol is colorless, it is smokeless, and it is a high quality fuel. These are some additional questions which are given in your textbook. Why are the wineries located near Nasik in Maharashtra? We know that for making wines, the main raw material used is grapes. So there are variety of grapes grown in and around Nasik. So for easy transportation and to avoid the loss of grapes due to spoilage, the wineries are located near Nasik in Maharashtra. Recently, it has been made compulsory in India and in some other countries to mix 10% of ethyl alcohol with diesel or petrol. So what could be the reason for this? So we know that the main raw material for the production of ethanol is molasses, and ethanol is produced by the process of fermentation. Now ethanol can be used as an alternative source of energy. The addition of ethanol to diesel or petrol reduces the particulate matter emission, that is pollution can be reduced to a greater extent. Also, the load on or the expenses that one has to bear for diesel or petrol can be greatly reduced. Bioremediation. Bioremediation is a branch of biotechnology. It makes use of living organisms like microbes and bacteria, which helps in removal of contaminants, pollutants and toxins which are present in soil, water and the environment. The process of bioremediation may be used to clean up the contaminated groundwater. So you can see the groundwater is completely dirty, contaminated, or oil spills may take place in an ocean. So the process of bioremediation can be used to clean up this contaminated groundwater or even the oil spills. Bioremediation relies on stimulating or activating the growth of certain microbes. And what do these microbes do? They use the contaminants, that is they use the pollutants like the oils, solvents and the pesticides for food and energy. So the microbes get food and energy from oil, solvents and pesticides, which are actually the contaminants or the pollutants which are present in a particular place. And in turn, the microorganisms convert the contaminants into small amounts of water and carbon dioxide. The process of bioremediation may take anywhere for several months to several years to complete. So it all depends upon the size of the contaminated area and the concentration of the contaminants in that place. Bioremediation often takes place under the ground where the microbes can be pumped up. So you can see addition of microbes and oxygen is done in the water. So when the microbes are pumped up in the groundwater, then cleanup of the contaminants can be done in the groundwater, and even soil can be cleaned by the process of bioremediation. It is a cheaper cleanup method because it does not require any substantial labor. This is an example of bioremediation which was carried out in Gujarat. You can see that before treatment there was a water body which was highly contaminated. So after pumping in the microbes, after 44 days, this was the state of the water body. To some extent now the water is visible and the pollutants have been reduced. And you look at the picture after 70 days, what has happened to the groundwater? The groundwater has been purified to a greater extent. When palm oil is produced, a yeast called as Yerrovia lipolytica is used to absorb the toxins from the palm oil. It is also used for absorbing heavy metals and minerals which are released during the industrial processes. Arsenic is a pollutant which is produced during the process of mining and smelting. So to absorb arsenic, a yeast called as Saccharomyces cerevisiae is used. Oil spills often take place. So to clean up the oil, a bacteria called as Alcanivorax borcumensis is used. We find that chapatis made from wheat only swell up, but bread becomes soft, spongy and easy to digest. We know that during the process of making bread, a yeast called as Saccharomyces cerevisiae is added to the wheat flour or to the all-purpose flour called as a maida. The yeast brings about fermentation of the carbohydrate which is present in the wheat flour or the maida into glucose, and the glucose gets converted into ethyl alcohol and carbon dioxide. So it is because of the release of the carbon dioxide gas that the bread dough rises up and the bread becomes soft and spongy. We know during preparation of chapatis we do not add yeast to the wheat flour. So the chapati only swells up, but it does not become rise up as the bread rises with a lot of air spaces which are present in the bread, which is caused due to the release of carbon dioxide when the bread rises. So the chapati will only swell up, but it will not swell up just like the bread does.